Hello everyone, I'm Electra and today I'm presenting Scaling Bitcoin with Stacks, an accountant's point of view. So we're looking for relevance. This session will be very interesting and will update what we understand about Bitcoin. What's been happening in Bitcoin in the last year or two has been quite incredible, and so this session we're just going to go on a deep dive. A bit about me. So my name is Electra Frost. I'm in Australia. I live in central coastal Queensland, which is where the Great Barrier Reef starts. It's a very beautiful place. I'm originally from the city, from Sydney, and I operate remotely from here. And I find it quite a nice life because when you're tied to the computer a lot, it's nice to step out into nature. And I'm involved in quite a bit. My practice, ElectraFi, originally Electra Frost Accounting, started in 2008, and yeah, we've been putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet since 2013. And now I've committed the practice to working in Web3, in particular supporting accountants whose clients are entering Web3. So we deal with businesses and not so much individuals, but I'm really interested in the business accounting, the crypto accounting systems, and getting the financial piece into good shape. So, and I also co-founded a charity called Digital Playhouse Foundation in Queensland, and we have three core projects. These are our social projects. So we're a registered charity with on a mission to improve social and public welfare through financial literacy and digital literacy. So we have a learn, build, support model. Our learn element is the schoolofbitcoin.com, which is a decentralised autonomous education system in the making. Build, we run the cohort for Stacks Australia. You might have heard of the Stacks blockchain. Well, we're building a community of developers, builders in Australia to build out that global ecosystem of innovation. And we also have our support, which is accountants who just my colleagues and connections who are very interested to support this space. And, you know, all businesses or startups need good accountants that understand their business models in Web3. So we work together and they cross over. And our project, CREDU, a verified P2P CPE decentralised application and platform, is something that we're building on Stacks to bring together the three projects into one focus and something to do on Stacks, which I'll tell you about later. All right, so I've been an accountant for a very long time. I'm a member of the Institute of Public Accountants in Australia, which is a CPA equivalent, and we have our global competency framework that we have to follow for our CPE. And I've been studying this a little bit more lately because I'm, you know, trying to work out how to build a CPE verified credentials system. So we have to be aware of technical, transdisciplinary and professional aspects of our CPE. And of course, there's ethics and tax and the usual things in there. But I thought about this and I thought, well, how is this going to be relevant to accountants? Business environment and economics, yes. Data acumen and application, yes. And organizational culture, yes. There could also be ethics and tax in there because we need to be aware of what our clients are doing to be able to apply our ethical and tax law judgments. Okay, so and how will these apply? Well, we're going to learn more about Bitcoin today. Now, I must say up front, I'm not a blockchain technical person, although I did study an advanced diploma of applied blockchain with my accountant's CREDU project on Stacks. I'm still learning to speak about Stacks, and so my role with Stacks Australia is as enterprise engagement. So I like to speak to businesses, and I'm always thinking about how can I apply this technology in my business, you know, from day one, 2008, when I went out on my own and decided this is going to be a paperless office. Everyone's going to be organised digitally before they come in with their records online and emailed to me, and in MYOB it made a zero. And so this just feels like the internet of money just feels like a continuum, an extension of that. And I want to know, how do I apply this in my business, and how will the clients in the industries that they're in apply it in their businesses too? What do I need to understand about how their business models are evolving with technology? So, and I'm sure many of you as accountants would relate. So my presentation today is to explain what I think we need to be aware of, what is happening in this space, and start learning to talk about Bitcoin a bit bit differently to how we have in the past in the contexts that come up with our clients. So yeah, so we're going to learn more about Bitcoin. I'm going to show you Bitcoin smart contracts and the new Stacks Nakamoto upgrade with sBTC, a synthesized monetary layer of Bitcoin for smart contracts and DeFi, and how Stacks apps are being used in business and Web3 accounting practice. And yeah, coming through to integrating Bitcoin Web3 with professional practice. How can we learn on the tools for continuous experiential learning? I like to get my hands in there to understand things, so I'll show you what I do. Okay, the disclaimer, if I said it, I didn't say it, you know the drill. So just general information and my own observations with a bit of passion. Okay, let's get into it. We're building on Bitcoin with Stacks. So we're coming up to a very exciting time. In April, we have another Bitcoin halving, and we're seeing all this pricing action and a bit more hype around Bitcoin. So what are the implications that this has? This has implications, right? And there are certain impacts of this Bitcoin halving that are different to previous halvings that happen every 4 years or so. As we know, Bitcoin operates on a fixed schedule where new Bitcoins are created at a set rate with a maximum of 21 million Bitcoins that can ever be created. And this finite supply is known from the outset. So this provides certainty that only so much Bitcoin will ever exist. And these halving events every 4 years, they're very significant because they reduce the rate at which new Bitcoins are created, which halves the inflation rate of Bitcoin. So the halving is important for Bitcoin because it potentially, so decreases supply growth. Okay, and that potentially increases the value of Bitcoin if demand remains constant or increases. And as we've seen with increased demand, increased pricing. So they're very predictable. They happen every 210,000 blocks, which is expected to be April. And it's very, it has an impact on the Bitcoin supply structure, furthering reducing the block reward. So that is paid to miners. So, and that can reduce the rate at which new Bitcoins enter circulation. So, and the idea that this is beneficial for decentralization is in that it can help prevent the concentration of mining power. Okay, so that can mean that mining is less profitable for the large centralized miners to dominate the network, and it can also, encourage more decentralization and security of the Bitcoin network. So the impact of block reward, it reduces from 6.25 to 1.25 Bitcoin. And so this could ease the sell pressure on the market when the increase in the Bitcoin supply the Bitcoin supply is decreased by 7 billion. These rising costs of Bitcoin mining can affect their profitability and by extension, the supply dynamics of Bitcoin. So that can affect reduce on-chain transaction volume. So this means an increase in transaction fees on the business network, which you might have seen. So if you've been transacting on Bitcoin lately. And so the rise in fees, particularly due to the adoption of ordinals, has significantly increased on-chain activity and fees. And there have been some incredible technological improvements on Bitcoin lately with the Taproot upgrade, which is crucial for the long-term viability and scalability of Bitcoin. And there's also been ordinals inscriptions, BRC20 tokens, lots of new interest in the Bitcoin space. Macroeconomic uncertainty in the world right now is kind of countered by certainty about Bitcoin. We know the halving is going to happen. There's growing interest in the sustainability of Bitcoin mining, especially in the context of the upcoming halving event, and increasing viability of Bitcoin mining through sources of renewable energy, which cost less. So Bitcoin miners have an incentive to use renewable energy. And so it's quite interesting, this what's happening right now. Have a look at the KPMG report on the ESG imperatives of Bitcoin mining. And so, yeah, there's new understanding of the Bitcoin ecosystem. We're seeing Bitcoin, the network, rather than just Bitcoin, the money. That's on the innovation radar right now. Okay. So thinking about Bitcoin L2s, what are they looking at? Now, we're seeing the market cap of Bitcoin almost double in the last year, maybe more than double to 1 trillion. And that's, nearly 3 times the market cap of ETH, and much higher than the others. And so, this capital in Bitcoin, which is increasing, of course, the ETF event, that was quite significant impact on Bitcoin's price as well, potentially going forward. And so, we're seeing this capital just locked up, being hodled. And not being used, not being collateralized in any kind of Web3 ecosystem. And so that's gotten people thinking about why they should build on Bitcoin. Now, can Bitcoin be the foundation for building the next generation of financial solutions? It has a proven security model, a network which is highly decentralized, spanning the globe, and unparalleled resilience against attacks. So it's kind of the gold standard in blockchain security, and that has value. So there's vast potential for innovation in Bitcoin. However, there are issues with building on Bitcoin, the base layer, directly. So this discussion today is about the layer 2s that can help to scale the building on Bitcoin. So, and seeing Bitcoin as an underlying technology, as a platform for developing those applications, and how that could redefine how we interact with money and how we think about money. Like, is Bitcoin money? Are Satoshi's money? It's a small denomination. Could collateralized Bitcoin be money? So it's quite interesting how these concepts are changing as Bitcoin evolves. And most of all, like the Bitcoin economic incentives are compelling. With that really high $1 trillion market cap, that's capturing the attention of investors worldwide, and a lucrative opportunity for developers and businesses to tap into a vast user base looking for innovative financial services, okay, with great economic allure and Bitcoin's technological merits. So, but however, we are still very early, which can be good. If you're an early starter, you can, there's less competition. There's more chance of a blue ocean. All right, so let's get into it. Why Bitcoin layers? Building on Bitcoin directly, limited scripting functionality. The script is mainly limited to settling conditions for spending transactions, okay? So there's no state or data, no automated code execution, and slow block time on Bitcoin with 10-minute blocks. Those confirmation times are too slow for what users have come to expect working in, using Web3 tools in the Ethereum ecosystem. Okay, now, and there has been increased demand for Bitcoin block space. If anyone's tried to consolidate their UTXOs with Bitcoin lately, expensive. So we're seeing, ordinals have been taking up 50% of Bitcoin's block space at times. And this increased demand for block space leads to challenges in managing the limited space available on the Bitcoin blockchain. And as more users seek to create and transact with ordinals, we're going to see more competition for block space. That's going to intensify. And so, this high volume of inscription messages overloads the network and can cause blocks to become full and transactions to be delayed. So and acceptance by traditional institutions is also a factor keeping demand on the network, with Bitcoin breaking through that major regulatory hurdle with its ETF approval. So that's pulling capital flows and entrepreneurial mindset back into the system, but we can't do that on a slow network. So we start to look at what people are building in this space to overcome that. So there are chains, there are off-chain networks, there are roll-ups, and there are protocols. So Ordinals is a protocol. Those Bitcoin projects are right on Bitcoin. Okay, and there are roll-ups, there are off-chain networks. Lightning, many of you might be familiar with, for payments, and that happens off-chain, and then settlements are made back to the Bitcoin main chain, the Lightning layer running over the main Bitcoin layer. And then there are side chains and independent blockchains that use different consensus mechanisms. And so rather than trying to create a blockchain that functions as both money and a complex execution environment, these Bitcoin builders are taking a layered approach to let Bitcoin remain simple and move the functionality to outer layers on these chains. So that's a bit of an overview of where the builders are building. All right, let's look at Bitcoin's layers and why. Okay, so Bitcoin layer 2s are surfacing the Bitcoin economy. This is what developers and builders have their eye on, the untapped potential of the Bitcoin economy, which is potentially a lot more than others. All right, so thinking about layer 2 networks on Bitcoin, they're early stage compared to those on other blockchains, but appear to be growing. As you can see, Bitcoin layer 2 development has been on the rise as a proportion of overall Bitcoin development. So Bitcoin core devs and others coming across are developing in this space because it's also being increasingly funded. There have been a lot of startup accelerator programs that are leading straight into funded projects which are really pushing ahead. So Ordinals enabled the network to host non-fungible tokens and paved the way for the BRC20 token standard. And that uses a different technology from Ethereum's tokens, but plays off the concept. And so, so the builders are quite active here. So an L2 in Bitcoin may not fit the precise definitions of an Ethereum L2, since they serve different purposes and operate differently. However, the Bitcoin layers ethos is to keep everything on the main chain unless necessary to move it off chain. And there are also hybrid approaches that builders are working on where we have the base layer handle some functionality, but it's enhanced on the L2. All right, this is very interesting, the Bitcoin L2 trilemma, where there are trade-offs between scalability, security, and decentralization. Okay, so this describes the challenge of improving Bitcoin's system to handle more transactions quickly, that's scalability, without giving up the security or control to few hands. You know, it's decentralization, which is tough because usually focusing on one can weaken the others. So you think of it like wanting a fast, cheap, secure online shopping experience. Boosting any of these two can make the third harder to achieve. And you've got solutions like the Lightning Network that try to make Bitcoin transactions faster and cheaper without compromising safety, but they have to deal with complex trade-offs. It's a delicate balancing act to grow Bitcoin's capabilities while keeping everything secure and widely accessible. So Stacks also faces the challenge of balancing these three dimensions. The Stacks blockchain has its own gas token to ensure efficient use of network resources, and having a token can prevent malicious activity as well. Without a token, a Bitcoin layer cannot operate as an open permissionless network. So as part of that open membership network, Stacks also has its own miners and a consensus mechanism that's tied to Bitcoin, interestingly. So any venture capitalists specialising in early stage technology investments, they maintain a token agnostic stance. They favour equity over tokens. And so, there's the idea of within the Bitcoin community, developers often engage in exhausting efforts to solve technological challenges with tokenless tokens, a practice which venture capitalists might view as ineffective. So Stacks attempt to basically have scalability and security and decentralization is remarkable and unique. So on to Stacks. All right, so Stacks is a Bitcoin layer 2 network. Well, it's a layer 2 to Bitcoin. It's its own blockchain, layer 1. So some call it a layer 1.5. So this terminology is contested. Networks are colloquially referred to as Bitcoin L2s, even if they don't meet the criteria of an L2 on other networks such as Ethereum, Tezos. So Stacks is the most ambitious programmable Bitcoin L2 in terms of Bitcoin integration and modularity. So let's get into Stacks. All right, what does Stacks do? Well, you can go and have a look at the Stacks blockchain. Look up the Stacks Explorer. Stacks is a Bitcoin layer that enables smart contracts and decentralized applications to use Bitcoin as a secure base layer. So decentralized applications are executed on Stacks and settled on Bitcoin. So that leverages the security and capital of Bitcoin while offering this programmability that's not possible on Bitcoin's scriptable settlement layer. So rather than trying to create a blockchain that functions as both money and complex execution environment. So the Bitcoin builders are taking a layered approach with Stacks to let Bitcoin remain as simple as possible and move the functionality to other layers. Okay, and that's what Stacks is setting out to achieve with the expressiveness as well as the durability, taking advantage of the durability of Bitcoin, which can be also seen in terms of a lack of centralized control, which can offer more censorship resistance, and that offers value to people, companies, countries that need the economic tools that might be resistant to controls of the old guard. So it's a real kind of paving the way for the future for an open, permissionless economy. Let's have a look at the Stacks consensus mechanism. So it has Stacks has knowledge of the full Bitcoin state thanks to its proof of transfer consensus mechanism and clarity programming language, which allows it to read from Bitcoin at any time. So with proof of transfer, or POCs, miners commit Bitcoin to eligible Stacks addresses to participate in consensus, and they earn Bitcoin from it. And the miners participating in this, it's known as stacking. So you've got proof of transfer running parallel to Bitcoin's proof of work. So there's hashing and settling Stacks transactions on the Bitcoin L1. And so this, this Bitcoin's transferred to the stackers in the mining process, and they lock their Stacks tokens in the network and are collectively in charge of maintaining Stacks two-way peg with Bitcoin. There's an upcoming Nakamoto release, which I'm about to get into, which provides 100% Bitcoin finality after 150 blocks. So, and this is going to require reorganization with Stacks history. So, and we'll also be talking about Stacks sBTC, a pegged pegged asset to Bitcoin that's going to happen. All right, so Nakamoto upgrade. So this Nakamoto release on the Stacks blockchain is bringing Bitcoin security features into the system to enhance the transaction security and efficiency. So currently it takes a long time for transactions to get through on Stacks, and the goal is to allow this, after the upgrade, there'll be 5-second transactions we're looking forward to. And it also allows the network to benefit from, it'll improve Bitcoin's, it'll access Bitcoin's finality and fork resistance better, which will improve the environment for developers, and with enabling faster and safer smart contract executions. So, and there'll also be a fairer mining environment to reduce manipulative practices and reward miners based on their contributions to the network security. So they're thinking of everything here and working very, very hard to get it done by the halving. So yeah, having a look at the flywheel is a way to understand how the Nakamoto upgrade is going to connect Stacks more effectively to Bitcoin. And it emphasizes its significance in adopting Bitcoin's security model. So, and this is important for the Stacks networks to ensure that the transactions, every transaction through Stacks is leveraging Bitcoin's finality. So, yeah, it's quite a strategic move of Stacks to do this. And with the introduction of sBTC within the upgrade, that's a focal point. sBTC represents, it's a pretty huge move forward with an asset that bridges Stacks with Bitcoin. So that gives users a new way to interact and benefit from their Bitcoin without leaving the Stacks ecosystem. So you're able to take your Bitcoin cross-chain, but it's still your Bitcoin, it's non-custodial. And so that should give more utility and flexibility. You know, Stacks does have a token, STX, but the token is not meant to be money. Like the Stacks rewards is part of the mining, you know, it provides the incentives. And but users are really meant to use Bitcoin, which is quite interesting. Okay, so this idea of a trustless peg. And so let's introduce sBTC, Stacks Bitcoin. where we read Bitcoin and write to Bitcoin. Some are saying this is the holy grail of Bitcoin Web3, the final frontier, the final piece in a complete toolset for Bitcoin smart contracts, because that's what Stacks is for. It's for smart contracts and DeFi on Bitcoin. And yeah, so let's get into it. Trustless peg, trust minimized peg, and it depends how you look at it. But what's really important here is the Bitcoin ethos. You know, I've heard some wariness in Bitcoin circles about, you know, Stacks having a token, but the more I've studied it and learned it, the less look, I use tokens. The tokens are great. It really depends on your use case, which chain you use to build your project. And if you really think that you want to take advantage of, if you think that you need Bitcoin's security and decentralization qualities for your project, then it's a nice idea to be able to build on Bitcoin. But by the same token, no pun intended, we're also like involved in fantastic projects that are going to improve the world and improve our lives that are being built on other chains as well. However, something to understand about the Bitcoin builders movement, which I find quite interesting. They're real Bitcoiners, and so this famous quote from Stacks Nakamoto, Bitcoin as a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. Now, we think of that as money, right? Cash from one person to another, which has needed intermediaries in a digital environment until now, until this. However, maybe money looks a bit different, and maybe sBTC is exactly the same thing. It's just allowing online payments from one to another, but in a different form and flow. And look, this is very important because the failures of centralized entities like FTX, Genesis, Voyager have cost users over $2 trillion in 2022, and these failings prove the importance of reaffirming the ethos of Bitcoin to create a truly decentralized and transparent economic system, not just a monetary system, and an economic system, a Bitcoin everything. So that's what sBTC builds on, these foundational principles to solve the Bitcoin white problem and unlock an era of Bitcoin applications to accelerate the Bitcoin economy. And some of them say that Ethereum was the test net for Bitcoin. All right, so let's understand sBTC. What is it? It's a new digital asset that makes Bitcoin fully programmable. It matters because it uses this decentralized pegging system, one-to-one with Bitcoin, that enables your easy movement of Bitcoin value in and out of Bitcoin layers without having to change the benefits on the base layer. So, and why now? Because this Bitcoin write problem has to be solved to enable smart contracts that write back to the Bitcoin main chain and to make the most of the Bitcoin. People don't just want to hold their Bitcoin, they want to use it. And using is productive. We can do useful things. Okay. So, you know, if you think of holding your Bitcoin, you could collateralize that. You know, we're business people, many of us, and we want to use our value to make more value. And but we also don't, you know, we've been raised to understand, we understand in Bitcoin that we want to have this non-custodial money. We like to be our own banks, but we still want to, we want our cake and to eat it too. So that's what I'm seeing with Bitcoin, Stacks Bitcoin. To allow smart contracts outside of Bitcoin to effectively write to the Bitcoin main chain is pretty interesting too. You've got that Bitcoin finality of your smart contracts on the layers. So it's cheaper. There's no wrapping fee. This isn't wrapped Bitcoin. There's no custodian. There's no custodial fees. And it's fast. There'll be these 5-second transactions and with all the security of Bitcoin. That's what they're promoting to us now. We haven't seen it. We haven't used it yet. It's coming. But boy, have they been working on it. So I'm looking forward to being able to use sBTC in some of the applications that we're currently using STX in. So yeah, very open membership design, and you know, the efficiency of not having to wrap and unwrap your Bitcoin, so you're not paying those fees like with traditional peg solutions, and just a constant flow of Bitcoin at the protocol level. So it means we can, you know, it's it's interesting to think that that could be like money. I've got to use it to get my head around it. It's still quite theoretical to me, and but I think it's an important time to read the theory and then try and understand when we use it. So, but it's this Bitcoin finality which I find really interesting. Okay, sBTC, it's only possible with Stacks because Stacks has been built since 2001 as a programming layer for Bitcoin that reads to the Bitcoin blockchain. So they've built the foundations. They've got the proof of transfer consensus mechanism, and that is enabling Stacks now to become this continual record of all transactions that ultimately get settled to Bitcoin. So, you know, it's very different to Lightning. Lightning's also great. I think we can, and Lightning is also usable in some of these Stacks Dapps. Yeah, we can also get Bitcoin yield. And we've also got the Stacks token, which is providing the economic incentives for the security. And the Clarity smart contract language is quite interesting. I've started trying to learn it. It's human readable, it's decipherable, it's regarded as more simple, and therefore if more people can read it, therefore there's better security. That's the idea. So maybe that's something they'll teach in university for accounting courses in future. Okay, so the user flow is a good way to understand sBTC. All right, so you'll have your Bitcoin and you'll send it to the sBTC protocol multisig. Okay, Stacks nodes, they read the blocks and you mint your sBTC, and then you go and use it in Web3, in DeFi, NFTs, and your decentralized applications and your smart contracts. And it's a two-way peg, so I guess that means it comes back. And what does this enable? Well, this enables building a Bitcoin economy. Oh, sorry, Zaka asked, what languages are developers using on Stacks? And I just mentioned that, that's the Clarity language. Okay, so yeah, just look up Clarity versus Solidity. I might share that later. Okay, so with the sBTC launch, Stacks developers are activating builders and founders to start building real applications. So we can be building our businesses on Bitcoin and our billion-dollar businesses on Bitcoin, we're thinking. So because we can take advantage now of you know, the privacy of zero knowledge proofs with sBTC and NFTs. We can collateralize our Bitcoin for stablecoin loans and gain yield from stacking. So that could change lending and borrowing with Bitcoin without needing to use custodial services. We can have our identity on Bitcoin, and we can have our communities in Bitcoin, and it's all integrated with sBTC being the monetary layer. Yes, there are other derived assets of Bitcoin. But the thing to understand about sBTC, it's not just another stable coin or wrapped Bitcoin. It's more like, I think of it as a synthesized Bitcoin, a derived asset of Bitcoin that can write to Bitcoin network transactions pegged one-to-one with Bitcoin. So in the system design, when a user pegs into Bitcoin, BTC, the BTC is held in the multisig protocol, and then the sBT is minted. So that from there, the users are using their programmable Bitcoin in crypto apps and protocols on the Stacks network. So they're not having to pay fees to peg in and out and deal with custodians and worry about it going missing. Well, you know, I think it would be this term trust minimized rather than trustless. It remains to be seen. But yeah, they're trying to do something different to overcome these problems where, you know, there have been derived assets of Bitcoin on other chains. All right, so we should, I'm speeding through this. I thought 50 slides, and I really didn't want to do a death by PowerPoint. However, it's nice to be able to see pictures to understand the concepts. And I guess that's what I'm really doing today, is to try and convey the concepts and to encourage us to look into it further. and how we might use it in our own practices, as I am. All right. And how we do that is we start to explore the Stacks decentralized applications and, and see, well, where would I find my utility for my business, or where my clients find utility in this? If the ones that are holding Bitcoin that have businesses, could they get a competitive edge with this? That's how I think. So this old image is very helpful. We have Bitcoin as the base layer, providing the proof of work security, and it's also providing a store of value. It's all the capital. Okay. On top of that, we have Stacks to scale Bitcoin and provide smart contract functions. And we can have our decentralized identities and decentralized storage systems. Okay. And on top of that, we have our applications with Web3. And what can we do? Well, there are a number of developers who are building out the Stacks ecosystem, particularly preparing their assets, their tooling for sBTC with the Nakamoto upgrade. So today is actually, I was listening to it earlier, is Bitcoin Unleashed. Someone might want to look up Bitcoin Unleashed on YouTube and put the link in. It's on live, but don't go and watch that instead of me. You can go back and watch it later. You can watch me later too, and you're welcome to. So, but I wanted to show you just the overview of the Stacks ecosystem, which you can find if you go to the website stacks.co and have a look at the ecosystem and the apps. And yeah, it's growing every day. And a lot of these developers are like Bitcoin Core developers, or have come across from Ethereum. They might have been into Bitcoin first when it built in Ethereum, because that's where they could do stuff. And now they're coming back to the mothership, so to speak, to build their applications with new Bitcoin connections. So I'll talk a bit about what I'm using. So I'm very experimental. I've always experimented on myself in business with technology. From the early days, from the beginning, I had a paperless office from 2008, and insisted we were going to do everything digitally. We were early adopters of cloud technology. Well, I wanted to use everything to know how to use it before my clients did. And so that's why I'm playing in this space. So, and I think that Dapps are good to explore for use in Web3 accounting. Also to show that we're aligned in practice to the economy we're participating in. You might be doing this with, many of us, of course, we would be using quite used to using wallets and crypto. If you're in crypto accounting and you're not a crypto user, I think that's pretty strange. It's like, back in the old days, my boss wouldn't use internet banking, but the clients didn't. I thought that was odd. My boss also said that, my first boss also said that we wouldn't deal with internet businesses because they were, the internet was used for crime and the businesses would go broke. But anyway, here we are again. So yeah, it's a really fun ecosystem to explore, and it's very small compared to the EVA chain ecosystem. So I think, the Stacks ecosystem it's not as overwhelming for accountants who are new to it all, or for someone who's come from a Bitcoin world who can get a bit overwhelmed by, there's a lot of risks when you don't know what you're doing in other ecosystems. So this is, a bit less to deal with. And when you're using these tools, you might think, oh, it'd be really good if someone could make this tool that I could use with my Bitcoin too, and that someone could be you. So, and don't worry if you haven't learned how to code with Clarity smart contract language, though maybe we should. There are also no-code solutions, services that are coming up that I'll show you. So yeah, I'll show you a bit about what I'm using. So decentralized identity, a lot of us have used ENS domains for naming. So I've got electrafrost.eth, but I've also got electrafrost.btc, and for my business, ElectraFi.btc. It's a wallet address. And so I use this registrar for domain names, and it's like, years ago when I got electrafrost.com, I was like, yes, I was early. So get in there early and get your name. You might need it. And I love the idea that you could have these as wallet addresses and build an entire chart of accounts, right, with subdomains. So I could have income.electrify.btc and subscriptions.electrify.btc. Just ideas, but I have with crosscheck a self-sovereign DID web identity profile system. You can, this is where I created CREDU.app, and so that is the application that I'm building, and the users could have their name .credu.app as well to participate in that system. So, and those are NFTs basically that you use to enter token gated, connect with your wallet to participate in spaces like Console, a decentralized community, an alternative to Discord. I find Discord a little overwhelming sometimes, and it's designed for gamers. And so yeah, this is a Web3 platform for that I'm using for a few work groups at the moment. Block survey, I absolutely love. You've got to check this out. You collect and share form data. So it's like Google Forms, right? You know, you set up Google Forms people fill out, and Jot Forms and various others. This one is using decentralized storage. It's called the Gaia. It's similar to IPFS, and it's encrypted, so there's privacy. So yeah, and people can connect their wallets, various chain wallets, to block survey as well for signing, which is pretty amazing. So I'm really building back in years ago, I really made my practice work quickly with all our tax clients by writing tax questionnaires where they could with conditional logic, and they'd upload their information. This is like that, but like fully boosted with AI to help you write the forms when you've got mental block. I love it. So yeah, I'm finding the relevance to my business here. Gamma, CNFTs. You can also do your ordinals on Gamma as well. Siggle's pretty cool. It's like Substack, but in the Stacks environment. So got your open source writing platform. I guess it's a bit like Mirror, if anyone's used that. And Just Note is really cool. It's just a little note-taking app on my phone that Google can't read because, yeah, I don't know. I just want more private tools. When I have a really big idea, I don't want anything reading it. This is really cool. I've used this a few times to swap Bitcoin and Stacks with a Lightning wallet. Okay, so I don't know if anyone here uses the Lightning tools, Lightning apps, but Albi is one that I use in my browser to go through the Bitcoin ecosystem, and I can swap my Bitcoin over Lightning for Stacks when I need gas or network fees. Okay, and also the wallets. We've got Leather Wallet and Xfirst Wallet, used to be known as Hero Wallet. So they're your Stacks wallets, and you can keep your tokens in there as well. And yeah, ElectraFi.btc shows as all your wallets are shown on there, and it can also integrates with Ledger for security, and so that's with my stacking of my Stacks. I've got Ledger security on that. The multi-sig treasury I'm starting to use, which is for multi-sig, for multiple signing approval of transactions from the company wallet. Right, hardware wallet hasn't come out yet, but this is really innovative. This is going to be a social wallet to onboard the hundreds of millions of new users without seed words. So it's it's community based. And there's DeFi. All right, so no code clarity. This is an option. I'm just looking at the time. I better keep moving. Okay, no code clarity. This is what I might get to help to build my project, but I bought the NFT for lifetime access to this because I can't code, but I have ideas, and I like the idea of AI helping me to code. So with their platform. So yeah, this is pretty interesting. Their beta launch in April is coming, and I've been talking with them. So, and yeah, this peer-to-peer gig economy, there's a DAO, Zero Authority, quite interesting concept to check it out, and a gig marketplace. So I'm listed there, and I think I'm the only accountant on there at the moment, so check it out. And so they're building something, they're trying to build it so that you can use their infrastructure to build your own application or DAO. All right, so this is the project I'm working on. It's a Stacks Australia project with Digital Playhouse Foundation. You know, we can't legally create a DAO. However, we can use a charity which doesn't have private ownership, and that's where we're starting it. So the CREDU wants to solve costly inefficiencies and in tracking and verifying CPE, credentials for accountants, by streamlining the accreditation process and simplifying CPE record keeping to give professional bodies a very automated system to audit our CPE activities to save money and make us more transparent. And I believe would raise industry standards for continuous learning and give us an environment where we can collaborate to further monetize our expertise in peer-to-peer CPE. So CREDU is Welsh for having faith in, believing. And we want to redefine how, not how we do CPE necessarily, not the CPE itself, but how we do it, how we can increase its validity and value through peer-to-peer verification. And so, you know, a lot of accounting professionals, at least in Australia, are not compliant with their CPD hours, CPD, CPE, for various reasons, and this is eroding public trust, and there is an erosion of our perceived value going into the future. AI will not be the end of us. We can prove our worth through what we know. It's also costly and time-consuming to keep track of our records with subscription apps and fragmented sources of data. So I want a tool that's going to help us to aggregate everything fairly effortlessly into one system that can be seen publicly by everyone to see that we actually are more up to date than the letters on the end of our name, which could give us a real competitive edge. And so that can be seen publicly, but also something that our professional bodies could find a lot of value in if they could just plug in and be able to see a dashboard with alerts of all of their members whose CPE is up to date or not up to date. And so, yeah, a problem is that a lot of CPE content is pretty uninspiring. We're specialists. We're doing general CPE, except for here. This is quite specific, but I like the idea of being able to take general CPE, use that content to create something niche and specialised, and then on-sell it with the original content creator being compensated. And if we could get that happening in a smart contracted AI environment with sBTC, that would be really fantastic. And it's beyond blockchain, it's using Bitcoin. So for transparent tracking of our hours to just increase compliance and also boost public trust. And yeah, so, and give us a way to, new ways to monetize our knowledge and accelerate our professional development amongst each other. So yeah, I think there are a lot of incentives in this, and I'm going to be talking about it a bit more in future. It's just at the early kind of MVP, working out the architecture stage where, you know, we've got, it's quite complex because there are 4 sets of users to consider the user flows for, but it should be very easy to onboard onto because it'll be a fairly familiar day. So I want to get to know the Stacks ecosystem by using by actually building a project on it. And this isn't just me. I want to do this as a collective project. I don't have time I'd like to focus on the architecture. However, there's so much research to do about what, you know, you've got NASBA in the US, right? I assume many of you are in the US. We don't have a body like NASBA in Australia. We just have to keep records. And if we get audited by our professional associations, we have to prove what's verified and unverified. Very time consuming. I don't think they get to audit very many of us, and that's becoming probably an issue. There might be people might be a bit lax about it, but I try very hard with my CPE to keep up to date. Now, if there are other accountants who aren't, they may say on their website that they're specialists of something, and they may say on LinkedIn that they're specialists of something. But if you could actually see their profile and with records of, you know, what they've been studying lately, that's proof, isn't it, of what they know, proof of competence. I guess that's what we're trying to achieve here, because that will make us competitive, right? We're the crypto accountants. Look, we actually turned up and did this whole week. Well, some of us did. And it's also a great opportunity for CPE training providers to get a bit more global reach and to collectively develop and upgrade the knowledge to get ready for the new economy. And yeah, I think the big value cell is going to be the two professional associations. So I think we will need representatives in each country to deal with their own. But the public will love it because they'll be able to find us. And so, you know, when I've spoken to Bitcoin and blockchain people, they're like, oh, what, I could find an accountant? Yes, with verified expertise. So I think there's a lot to sell there. And the, yeah, building it will be a joint effort. Well, thank you. I hope this was interesting today, and I'll be talking a lot more about this. So please follow my blog if you would like to see the next installment of where this project is going and maybe get involved. I would like to learn from you. There's going to be a lot of consultation, and to see all the things I'm doing and to connect with me on LinkedIn, you go to electrafrost.com. And I'll just flick over here. If you want to learn more, trustmachines.co learn is the best place to learn more about building from Bitcoin, where it's, sorry, I'll stay on that, where it's, you know, there's a lot of short videos and articles. So that's where I'm getting bite-sized bits of knowledge from as well.